Shalom, Kol Halal, Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahushai, Bahasham, Rekah HaKodash. Double honors unto the apostles, double honors to the elder bishops. Salutations to all my fellow laborers doing this work in truth and sincerity, risking their lives and their freedom to do so, now more so than ever. The would-be judges, the 144,000, and the scattered elect that are scattered around the four corners of the earth, that be like unto the speckled bird among the heathen nations, that have the appearance of the heathen nations. This is not a black only thing. And to the few Akwaf that are listening and learning, to you I say shalom. This is your brother Malcolm from the branch of the Great Millstone here in Chicago, coming at you another lesson in truth. And do not get it twisted. The body of the Israelites, mainly today, are the Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. But you cannot discount the innumerable multitude of Israelites that are scattered among the heathen nations that actually look like those heathens. All right. That's the true message that these Christian attackers, you know, these zombies in Christianism, vocab, and people like him tend to attack. And even more so, these are the type of lessons that they ignore. These are the type of lessons that they don't do a response to. These are also the type lessons. This is also one of those type lessons that wakes people up from that madness, and you come over to the light and walk out of the darkness. Because if you're involved in Christianism, you're completely in the darkness. If you're involved in if you're an Israelite and you are involved in any of those man-made religions, be it Judaism, Christianity, the main ones, Judaism, Christianity, Islam, you're in darkness. You're in the congregation of the dead. Point blank, period. So this is a receipt, a literal receipt. All right, from I don't know how many years ago. I just happened to find it. I was flipping, picked up my Young's Dictionary Bible. I'm holding one in my hand. You can see how tattered and beat up it is. And this receipt was in the pages. And I did this lesson. I decided I'm going to do it again. I'm going to redo it. And it was on the word assembly, ecclesia, and helenist. And just to go to show you that when Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, printed the Bible, all right, he tells you the truth, but he changed his words. All right, he changed a lot of words, and then those words have meanings today that don't mean what they meant originally, which is why people are misled in Christianism. Okay, so we're going to start with the word church. And the word church was a replacement for the word ecclesia. Page 144 on top of that. So this is page 144. See at the top there? And this is the ecclesia, Greek, assembly, a word that is used to translate the Greek ecclesia. Here's the meaning of it. All right, and it gave you some scriptures, which is an idea of an assembly and is translated the Hebrew equivalent of kahal, which is religious sense referred to Israel as a religious body. The early church carried the religious sense over to ecclesia and considered itself, let me brace kind of hold my arms in the air. I don't want to move. I want you to get that nice screenshot, Salakia. So let me just lean forward so I can put my arms down and hold it still. There we go. I want you to get that screenshot, okay? The early church carried this religious sense over ecclesia and considered itself to be part of the true Israel of God, those who from any background had the faith of Abraham. Now, that's not true. You know, they always add something in there. And then they put in scriptures that's talking about, they put in Romans 9, left out 1 through 5. You see that? And Galatians 3 and 14 and 29. And that's talking about the line of Israel, which is through Isaac and Jacob, because Abraham had other sons who are also Hebrews, but it's not talking about them. It's talking about the Hebrews that are through the line of Jacob. All right. So you got to remember, you know, Abraham was the father of Ishmael, and then he had 6 sons with Keturah. All right. And the sons of Ishmael are all into Islam. Okay. So, you know, and I imagine, I haven't done the research, but on Keturah's sons, because they're really not that important. But I imagine a lot of them also follow Islam and other religions. So, you know, so they lie. But the point is that they changed it from ecclesia to church. In church, well, you say you're going to church, people immediately think of modern day Christianity. So they lied. Okay, so let's look up that scripture. I'm curious now. Acts, so they got 4 scriptures. They got Acts 4 and 19 and 32 and 41. So let's go to that. Book of Acts, 1932. Wow, 1932. What a hell of a year that was. In fact, that's that year that movie The Sinners is based around. But this is Acts 19:32. Some therefore cried one thing and some another, for the assembly was confused, and more part knew not wherefore they were come together. So this assembly wasn't. Why would heathens that were not Hebrews gathered to hear the message of the Hebrew God, of the Hebrew people? You see, it's just that wasn't a part of their heritage. All those conquered nations that were under the Romans, under the Greeks, they all had their own gods. And when they captured the Hebrews were among them. And the Hebrews followed their. This thing is really simple. They make it difficult. All right. And one of the ways we prove that, okay, because they use scriptures that we've already proved 1,000 times over. You know, Galatians is talking about the Hebrews, okay, just like it says in one of my favorite scriptures, 2 Corinthians 11 and 22, and it reads simply, are they Hebrews? So am I. Are they Israelites? So am I. Are they the seed of Abraham? So am I. So when you get to Galatians, all right, when you get to Romans, they got Romans 4, 16 and 18. They got then they got Romans 6 and 8. They left out 1 through 5 though. That's the funny part. I just find that hilarious. You're gonna use a precept and purposely leave out when it says who pertaineth to, who are Israelites according to the flesh, my kinsmen according to. They leave that part out, jump right to verse 6. Romans 9 and 6. They jump straight to here. Not as though the word of God have taken none effect, for they were not all Israel which are of Israel. See, you see what they did? So they skipped right past what it said before that. It says, verse 3, Romans 9 and 3, for I wish that I could myself were accursed from Hamashiach, from my brethren, my kinsmen, according to the flesh, who are Israelites, to whom pertaineth the adoption. And then I've just learned that in the, I heard a brother say that in the newer versions of the Bible, they've left the pertaineth out. All right. Yeah. So that it's not directly. This is talking about, are they Hebrews? So am I. Are they Israelites? So am I. But they try to make, they purposely worded this definition. You see the deceit, lies, okay? To try and make it universal when it's not, all right? It says, and the giving of the law and the service of God and the promises, whose are the fathers, of whom concerning the flesh Hamashiach came, who was over all, God blessed, amen. But they tried to go to verse 6 through 9. And just reading verse 6, you can see the deception. If you're reading that without context, you know. And then they try to say, all right, then verse 7, neither because they are the seed of Abraham are they all children, but in Isaac shall that seed be called. That's actually what destroys them, because it's letting you know that you have to be through Isaac and then Jacob. All right, because you can only be an Israelite, which is the subject matter of what we're reading in Romans 9. Romans the 9th chapter, the subject matter is the Israelites in verse 3 and 4. His kinsmen, according to the flesh, who are Israelites. That's the subject matter of the whole chapter. All right. So these people are liars. Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, are liars. And when they tell you the truth, they also throw lies in there. We tell you that you got to literally pick the meat off the bones when it comes to dealing with Esau, Edom. Okay. So now that they threw that what did they, kinsmen. So let's look up that kinsman. All right, let's go back to our little buddy here, to this Bible dictionary. And I'm sure it goes hard in the Youngs as well, but we're gonna look it up in this one because this is a new hot thing with me right now. This Bible is light too, so it's a thinner book. It takes up less space, so it I remember those days when I used to carry a big crate full of books. I used to bring them out to camp in like first 5-6 years. Just hoping that somebody would say something stupid. All right. But page 106 is kinfolk, kinsman, kinswoman. All right. Persons of the same family, a man of the same race or family, or one related by blood. Then it says seed genealogy. Man, you can't get around this, man. All right. Above it was the kingdom. That's what you're looking at with the underlying part. And it says the reign of the Messiah, the government rule of supreme administration. And who is that going to be? The governing body is going to be Yahushua, King David, and the rest, and the 144,000, the rest of them. Because King David is the head of the 144,000 under the authority of Yahushua, who the world fraudulently and falsely calls Jesus Christ. That's what it is. Okay. So, like I said, these are the type of lessons that Vocab and his constituents ignore completely. All right, so I'm gonna look up kinsman in the Youngs as well. Let's go see if it's in here. All right, and I'm gonna hold on to this receipt too. Now I realize why I kept it. As I'm reading through it and going through it now, because this is heavy stuff, man. Like I said, these are type, and I these were those early videos that I did on that Maccabean Spirit channel, which is my oldest and my largest one. I think it just got out. I think finally I because I can post on it and stuff like that again, because I contested their strike, and I guess they removed it because they gave me a strike for violence for video. That's a YouTube video. So I post a video and add some scriptures to it. I get a strike, but the video that it came from is still on YouTube. With God knows how many hits, but then you give mine a strike. So, yeah. So we know that they're being unjust and that they're watching us. That's beyond obvious. So, kinsman, that's what I'm looking for. So this book is falling apart. That's how well used it is. Kinsman's Redeemer. They don't, so they don't have it in here. He just has Kinsman's Redeemer. They don't have the actual definition of kinsman in here. So I'm glad I do have the, then it must be in the Zondervan's. Yeah, it's not in the Youngs. Okay. So we're just going to stick with these two. There's a Zondervan's behind me, but for the sake of time. So my next scripture was on this list here was Acts 6 and 1. All right. Which disproves the lie what they tried to do. You can see the deceit that they tried to do. As a matter of fact, let's look up deceit in the Kings in the this one right here, the King James Dictionary. Let's look up deceit because I kind of remember that one going hard. And this is what Esau, Edom, and what they tried to do, or what they try to do, but what they've done with Christianism. And yeah, here we go. If you missed it the first time, here it is. It's on page 40. And oh yeah. So deceit. A catching or ensnaring. That's number one. Number two, misleading of a person and leading of the leading of another person to believe what is false or not to believe what is true. That's vocab Malone. That's Christianity. All right. It says, and thus to ensnare him, fraud, fallacy. That's another definition for bastard. Cheat, any declaration or artifice or practice which misleads another to cause him to believe what is false. All right. Stratagem, artifice, device intended to mislead, that which is obtained by guile, fraud, or oppression. Wow. Now that makes you think of Sirach 10 and 8. That's how Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, got wealthy, got rich. When he came to all the other lands using guns, germs, and deceit. All right. Steal, guns, and disease and deceit. We add deceit in there. Because that's a book that I have, and that someone, I got to get into it. Eventually, I'm working my way to it. All right. I got a lot of books, a lot of information. And that's one that I wanted for years. That book evaded me, and I finally have it now. That guns, germs, and steel. I remember there was a long lesson that we did. I had a long conversation with the German girl. They deleted that video. That video had like almost 70,000 hits before they got rid of it. But this girl from Germany was having that conversation with that book and basically admitting she did, and she's the one that turned me on to the book. That how Esau, Edom used guns, they used germs and steel to conquer all the other nations, to colonize all the melanated world. For the most part. All right. All melanated people became a victim of these guns, this steel, and these germs. I mean, that's how they got all the land in Montana and all across America. They came in with the, they used chemical warfare even back then. Medical, medical practice. And they do it now through medical practices. Medical practices is chemical warfare on Jacob here in America. All right. Pseudoscience, fake science, fraud. So now, let's go to that 6 and 1 now, Acts 6 and 1. And that's talking about the Hellenists, because they replaced the word Hellenist with Grecian. If they'd have left the word Hellenist there, the scripture would have been very clear. But they changed it to Grecian on purpose. The same as they did in Acts 9 and 29. So we just read the 1 to represent both. But this is Acts 6 and 1, and it says, and in those days, when the number of disciples were multiplied, and disciples were what? They were all Hebrews. 2 Corinthians 11 and 22. Are they Hebrews? So am I. Are they Israelites? So am I. Christians. Okay. It says, there arose a murmuring of the Grecians against the Hebrews, because their widows were neglected in the daily ministration. Now, if it read like it was supposed to, there arose a murmuring of the Hellenists against the Hebrews. It would have made it too simple. So, and what is that? So let's look up Hellenists in the Young's. Let's go back to the Young's. All right, Young's Dictionary Bible. It's like Hellenist. Well, what's that? What's a Hellenist? All right, that's not a common word that's used in English language or taught in the schools. Okay, Also on page 268, Hellenist, it says, see Grecian Jews. Wait a minute. So this was a dispute between the Hebrews and the Grecian Jews? Wait a minute. Which proves what I always say. The Israelites scattered among the nations and sometimes looked like those nations. So these were the Hebrews scattered among the Grecians. Yeah. You see, Christianity lies. Christianism lies. Vocab Malone is a liar and a deceiver. All right. And he's really bad at it. All right. He's really bad at it too. But you still have dummies or dumb asses who listen and follow. Like I said, and then all these horrific events is happening in the world, and his whole platform is all about the Hebrews. All right, which are affecting the economy, the state of the of America. Anyway, well, I guess we are spiritually, because telling the truth is what's making things happen in the world, bringing out the true gospel, because that is scriptural. So the true gospel of Yahushua is what's making the Lord move to put it on the spirits of men to do these things. So I guess we are having a big effect. That's why these A nationals, all right, which are the people who have no allegiance to any country, but their allegiance is to themselves, and they have power over all the major countries, over all the major powers. That's why they're done with America, and they're shifting their power to somewhere else. So they're orchestrating these wars, but in reality, the Lord is orchestrating these wars. He's putting it on the hearts of men, heart, meaning your mind, to do the things that they're doing. So you can see the clear and obvious deceit that was attempted by removing the word Hellenist from the Bible and printing Greeks or Grecians there to bring that confusion, to make it seem like, oh, well, the Lord is dealing with the other nations too, the Greek. And so out of all the people that were, look, and my client just came back from Japan. And before that, she was in London. And she was just talking about how when you was in London, it was just like being in America, except, meaning all the different people that are there, except they speak with an accent. And that all the places she just left, nobody likes Americans anymore. Right. And actually, it's been that way since about 2008. People have been tired of America for a long time. All right. But this is, since the internet, because people get to see the truth and share information back and forth, which is why they're going to bring on they're getting ready to, the WEF, World Economic Forum, is getting ready to have another drill on the worldwide blackout. Well, you remember the last drill they did on the worldwide pandemic. You remember what happened right after they finished it, about a month later. Yeah, exactly. So this thing is close. And through the Spirit, I believe wholeheartedly that when they do this exercise, right after it, or not long after it, you're going to have the blackouts. And when they have the blackouts is when this video and all videos like it disappear. And who knows how long they're going to leave those blackouts. That's the purge and the chaos is going to come. And they're going to turn everything back on. And the only way you'll be able to access the internet or access your bank account or anything, the currency will be gone. And, you have to get the MOTB. You have to have that to even get on the internet. And with the promise of UBI, because people, so who knows how long they're going to leave it out. And it also makes sense too, because they need or want depopulation. So lights out situations, a light out situation for a week, 3 weeks, a month, man, yeah, it could get really bad in that time before they restore everything. Even a week. By the third day, it's going to be utter chaos everywhere. All right, people probably be chill the first day. The second day, they're going to start, by that third day, you're going to have the YNs and all the crazy people and the people off their meds. And you're going to have, oh, man. Yeah, so between the violence and between the medical facilities not operating, they'll get that mass death that they were looking for when they force those you know, when they force the medicine, when they force the jump thing, when they force that stuff on people. All right. But yeah, let's get Isaiah 2:2. It says, I'll start at verse 1. All right, to get the context, because who is talking it to? All right, because it wasn't it wasn't talking to everyone. This was the stock of Abraham through Isaac and Jacob. But it says, the word of Isaiah, son of Amos, saw concerning Judah and Jerusalem. That's all the 12 tribes of Israel. You know how James 1:1 starts, to the 12 tribes scattered abroad, greeting. Duh. And it shall come to pass in the last days, so we're talking about the last days, that the mountain of Yahweh's house shall be established, and the top of the mountain shall be exalted above the hills, and all nations shall flow to it. So that means the 12 tribes will be the new world government here on earth under the authority of who the world fraudulently and falsely calls Jesus. And house, you know, the house is the stock of the heritage. All right, so let's look up that word stock, because yesterday's lesson we proved that Esau is of the stock of we proved that Alexander of the Great and the Greeks and the Romans and so-called white people today are of Alexander's stock, and that Alexander biblically and not only biblically but within secular history, we've done that as well, can be traced back to the Edom. All right, without a shadow of a doubt. All right, and the rabbis have hundreds of videos where they're calling American Christianity Asaph or Esaph. All right, but here's page 178 in the wrong book. Back to this book, King James Dictionary, page 178. Stock. All right, the stem, main body, a tree or other plant. Oh, let's jump down to verse 2. That's where the definition 2. The original progenitor, also the race or line of a family. The progenitors of the family and their direct descendants, lineage, family, which comes from the seed of a man. All right, the man begots children. Women bear children. All right, so to begot means you're beginning. So it's once again, you come out of your father's nutsack and are put into your mother's womb, and that's the second part of life. All right, when you're born, the finished product of what he shot into the mother comes out, but life began in your father's ball sack. All right, he put the life into your mother. So you didn't really come from your mother. You came from your father first. Then you come out of your mother. That's the order. That's the way the Lord set it up. Okay? It takes two. And even Esau has tried to get around that with his pseudoscience and try to just take the sperm, and put it into a what they call them, test tube babies. All right? All those test tube babies have to be in their 40s now. Those test tube babies from the 80s. Okay? They're all in their late 30s, early 40s now. Okay? But, your lineage, your heritage, your identity, your race is through your father, not your mother. There's no such thing as mixed. All right? You not have this or have that. Whatever your father is. All right? If your father is a different race from your mom, you can look like your mom's people, but your bloodline is through your father's people. It's simple. Anything else will be confusion. The Lord didn't create, he doesn't create confusion. Man does. All right, and it's mainly women that bring that confusion too. Because you hear a lot of people screaming at, my mama, my mama, my mama. You came from your father. All right. So, if you have your mother's name, that shit is off, because that's not who you are. Your father is your connection to your race, not your mom. All right. But this is Revelation 18:1. And why not Revelation, but Acts. I'm in Isaiah. I'm like, why am I reading that? Acts 18:1. Oh yeah, I remember that one now. Yeah, these were talking about it is really, the point is in 2, but it said, after these things, Paul departed from Athens and Corinth, because see, the Israelites were scattered all throughout Greece, and found a certain Jew named Aquila, born in Pontus. So he was born in Rome, all right. Lately come from Italy with his wife Priscilla, and they even had Greek names, because that Claudius, and he was the emperor at the time, had commanded that all the Jews, all the Judeans, all the Judites depart from Rome and came unto them. And when you look into that history, the reason that they were made to leave Rome was because of aggressive street teaching, just like we do today. It was the same thing. Why? Because the Israelites, the end started when the return of the Lord, and the Israelites were going out on the streets and the highways and byways and the chief concourse places of Rome, and calling out to the Israelites, which was causing separation. All right, and all the other heathens, and the heathens that were in control at the time was Esau, Edom. They didn't like that. That's why they were forced to leave, because of this same thing that we're doing today. So this is nothing new. There's nothing new under the sun. And Esau, Edom has been trying to shut down Yahushua. They were forbid to teach in that name. And that's where we are today. So this is James, the book of James, 2:18. And it reads, yeah, a man may say, thou hast faith and I have works. Show me thy faith without works, and I will show you my faith with works. All right. And so the works are what? Going out and teaching. That's what the works are. The putting up of these videos, correcting. Okay. Let me read down. It says, thou believest there is one God, thou doest well. The devils also believe and tremble. But would thou know, O vain man, that faith without works is dead? Was not Abraham our father, see, justified by works, and when he offered Isaac, his son, upon the altar? So, talking about, and then they'll try to say these people were spiritual Israelites. That's not scriptural. That's a man-made doctrine. All right, we just proved that. Stock, lineage, race. I mean, it's like, damn, how much evidence proof do you need? I can't stand stupid ass people. All right. This is Luke 14:23. And it reads, and Yahweh said unto the servant, go out into the highways and hedges and compel them to come into my house, that my house may be filled. The Israelites were sent. All right. The disciples were sent to go out and compel their people. That's why they were kicked out of Rome, for doing what they were commanded. And we'll finish with this one. And maybe I'll do part 2. All right, because I got more scriptures on this list, a few more. So we'll make this part 1 of this lesson, dealing with the Young's Dictionary Bible. All right, and then I'll finish this lesson up with the last part of what's on this literal receipt. That's the crazy part. This was from the Goddess and the Baker. You can kind of see it faded there. All right. And the only thing left on the receipt is, and they do that on purpose. See, Esau tries to erase the trail. He puts that ink on there that disappears. Bastards. But with that, I will see you in the next lesson. Call halal Yahweh Ba'Shem Hawashai Ba'Hashem Rakah Quadash Kwam Yasharala Abba Baba.